What's going on, everybody? Hope all is well. So, I got this video pulled up from CNBC talking about why does high earners feel like they're living paycheck to paycheck. Now, I'm gonna reserve my take on this. So let's just get into the video. Let's hear what they got to say.
For many Americans, work can feel like a hamster wheel. No matter how hard they run, it never feels like enough. Americans, on average, say they would need $520,000 a year to feel rich. And the more people earn, the more they say they need to feel comfortable. Americans making under $50,000 felt they needed $157,000 a year to feel comfortable. Those making $100,000 or more said they would need $246,000.
When I was in middle school, a song came out called Mo Money, Mo Problems. And I think that that's true. Your problems scale. You still are dealing with a finite number every month. Your worries, your anxiety, your budget scales to that.
Now, when you start making a lot of money, I believe the only problem you should have is taxes. When you start making like over 100K a year, 150, stuff like that, I think the only problem you should have is Uncle Sam, But let's continue.
You still are dealing with a ceiling.
About 14% of all U.S. households make $200,000 or more every year. But many of them, dubbed Henrys or high earners not rich yet, still don't feel rich. 62% of people.
Hold on. High earners, not rich yet. That sounds familiar. What? Oh yeah, Kevin Samuels used to say that. Yo, shout out to Kevin Samuels, man. A high earner, not rich yet. Yep. He used to say that all the time.
62% of people with salaries over $300,000 a year struggle with credit card debt.
Earning doesn't actually make you feel rich. Spending it does.
Excuse me? Wait a minute. Let me play that back.
Or high earners not rich yet still don't feel rich. 62% of people with salaries over $300,000 a year struggle with credit card.
That make no sense, bro. 62% of people making over 300,000 a year has credit card debt. That looks like they got a spending problem. I mean, there's no... They don't... clearly, they don't have the 62% that they're talking about. Clearly, they don't have an earning problem. They have a spending problem. And on top of that, they clearly have poor finance, been making bad financial decisions. But that's crazy to think you're making over 300,000 a year and you got credit card debt. It sounds like they're just bad at managing their money. Budgeting. Their budgeting is all messed up. But let's continue.
Debt.
Earning doesn't actually make you feel rich. Spending it does. If most people spent 99% of their paycheck, they'd feel quite rich. And it's the paradox here. When we're in accumulation mode, it's very difficult to feel rich.
It can be pretty easy for someone to feel like I'm making really good money, but I don't have a lot of discretionary income.
Earning more and feeling like you're still on a hamster wheel is what a lot of Henrys experience. And that's because they're not living within their means. They may have been living above their means when they weren't nearly making as...
A lot of people do that when they get a promotion. They get a new job, a higher paying job. They increase their lifestyle to go along with it. And basically you gotta do the reverse. Whenever you get a new job, a promotion, you got a second job, do not increase your lifestyle. you gotta be looking to continue to live below your means while increasing your the revenue that you're bringing in. A lot of people do that, and that's how they just end up keeping up with the Joneses. And next thing you know, they have a high. They earn more. They spend more than they earn, basically. Yeah, it's common because a lot of people, they get that promotion, they feel good. You know what? Yeah, let me go on that trip. Instead of taking one trip a year, they take 2 or 3. Instead of sticking with a car that they got that was reliable, they go upgrade just for the sake of it. And that's how they get caught up.
As much money, and now they're just continuing to add more and more and more.
I earn $300,000 and I live in New York City. I definitely don't feel rich. I feel very lucky, I feel privileged, but I do not feel rich. I could not stop working right now. I have more money anxiety almost now than I ever did in my 20s. I am on a hamster wheel and there's no question about it.
Her business makes $300K a year, and she says she feels on a hamster wheel. Some people just have lifestyle. Their spending is just part of their lifestyle. They just make poor financial decisions, and instead of cutting back, instead of lowering costs and continue to run up your income, they spend it as fast as they get it. And that's why they feel like they're on a hamster wheel. They're not going nowhere, because as soon as that money come in, it's already gone. Not physically yet, but in their mind, they're probably thinking, oh, I'm gonna buy this, and this. I'm gonna take this trip, that trip. I'm gonna get that car. I'm gonna take my friends out, and splurge and whatnot. And they don't like sit down and budget their money effectively. And that's why you feel like they're on a hamster wheel. Her business is on a hamster wheel. A business that generates $300K a year, living in New York, is no excuse. Your business is making $300K a year. You should be able to manage that money effectively and not feel on a hamster wheel, and be able to scale up in that particular business. It is wild.
Henrys often don't feel rich compared to others. Many Henrys are cash rich and asset poor. So they're typically people under 40. They don't have childcare hours available. They're first-time home buyers in the housing market. They're paying off student loans early, hopefully. And their income usually hasn't hit a career peak. So they're very much in that not rich yet bucket, but they very well could be in the future.
Oh, I 100% feel like a Henry.
Marian Contreras was a professional composer, band leader, and pianist who started her virtual assistant business in 2016.
That year, I started to grow slowly, and I was suddenly earning more money than I had ever earned in my life. And I think the number was something like $35,000 by the end of the year. And I went, wow, this is really great, I can grow this.
She then expanded into a digital marketing consulting agency during the pandemic.
For the calendar year of 2025, we're just on track to make 1.4 million. We're hoping to get to 1.5 or possibly even 1.6. I'm anticipating my owner's draw to be anywhere between 300,000 and 400,000. Had a pretty successful career as a musician through most of my 20s. The thing they don't tell you about having a career as a musician in music school is that you can be playing Carnegie Hall, which I was, and I was making $15,000 a year. And I didn't realize how much freedom money affords you. Now that I see the kind of freedom that somebody who earns what I do or even more has, that's my goal. That is absolutely what gets me out of bed in the morning.
A lot of the high earners, not rich yet, they're first generation wealth. So they still take their wealth into perspective against their family members or others in their community, and they realize how well they're doing. So they don't take it for granted. But I think what makes them feel not rich is we were told once you make six figures, all of your problems will go away. You'll just have so much excess. And I think we know that narrative is not true anymore.
I would have thought back then that the amount of money that I have in the bank right now, I would be rich. I would have just thought, oh yeah, she's made it, and I don't feel that way. I know that I am on a hamster wheel with my business. I actually really love the hamster wheel. I love what I do, but I also realize that I can't stop.
That's crazy. Meaning she got to continue to work, and she had like no exit strategy. You know, her business, like she said, her business is on a hamster wheel. You know, she said basically she got to keep working and running the business. You know, some people, they get a business, they scale it up, and at some point, you know, they're going to have an exit strategy. Whether to sell said business and then roll that money that they got from the sale into something, and into another business adventure or whatnot. But that's crazy.
So Henrys often don't feel rich compared to others. They work very hard for their money, but they also spend a lot more than the average person.
In a lot of ways, Henrys may be victims of their zip code.
$100,000 in LA is definitely very different than $100,000 in Iowa. Someone makes $200,000 a year in LA. They're going to probably take home $140-ish. Rent for a one bedroom is going to be at least $3,000. Their car payment's going to be $700. Car insurance is going to be maybe $200 a month. Gas is going to be $200 a month. If you were to annualize that, that's $50,000 right there. The remainder is for all the other things. We haven't eaten yet. We haven't purchased groceries. We haven't paid for subscriptions to Amazon and Netflix. We haven't gone on vacation yet. We haven't purchased clothes yet. It can whittle away your discretionary income if you're living in an area that has a high cost of living.
When my business started to grow, one of the first things that I started spending more money on right away was food, because I don't have time to cook. I had more money than time, and so I started eating Grubhub 3 meals a day most days. After that, it became rent, because I hit $1 million a year in revenue, and I said, that's it, I'm moving to Manhattan. And so my rent doubled.
You see? See, that's what I'm talking about. They don't have an earning problem. They got a spending problem. She said she on Grubhub. He said as soon as her income increased, she moved to Manhattan, and her rent doubled. She could have stayed where she at and used that additional income to, 1, reinvest into the business, 2, invest it into the stock market. But no, she moved to downtown Manhattan to pay double the rent.
And I suddenly was paying $4,000 in rent. What is very worth it to me is to live where I want to live. I was proud that I could live here. For about a year, I would walk outside my apartment and just like look around and just be like, oh my gosh, here I am. So that was lifestyle creep for me.
Lifestyle creep is the common phenomenon of spending a little more money as you earn more. It can happen to anyone at any income.
Lifestyle creep can really sneak up on you. You start earning more, and then you decide, well, I can buy more things. I need a second car. I need a bigger home. I need to go on this European vacation. I deserve this European vacation because I work hard for my money. The problem is, if you're not continuing to increase your savings at the same time, you are putting your financial future in jeopardy.
That shift happens everywhere in our lives, from the small purchases to the really big ones. Cars, houses, vacation, and most of these expenses are fixed.
Lifestyle creep impacts almost all tax brackets, but it can take different forms. One 2024 study found that when low and middle income households were given an additional $1,000, no strings attached, every month, their spending increased primarily on basic necessities, such as food, transportation, and rent. However, when higher income households were given the same $1,000, they increased spending on both necessities as well as discretionary expenses, like Marie did.
I spend more on my hair, I spend more on makeup, I get my lashes done, I get my nails done. I think it's just something that comes with the territory.
Birds of a feather tend to flock together and their spending tends to be more aligned. If you make about $85,000, your friends probably also make about $80,000.
Nah, bro. You need to stay down. You know, just because you increase your income doesn't mean you gotta increase your spending. You know, you need to lower your overhead costs and continue to just run it up. And you gotta be disciplined. You know, but most people are just not disciplined. You know, as soon as they get that raise, get that promotion, get some additional income, they go crazy. You know, it's just all too common.
$85,000. So you're doing similar activities in the same economic bracket. Once you have friends that are making $200,000-$300,000 a year, your activities will change. The restaurants that you will eat at will differ and change. They're going to probably be a little bit more elevated. Your vacations are going to be more elevated.
Now, I'm not saying you should, just because you increase your income, you shouldn't like splurge. No, but it's okay to enjoy life, but just don't go crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to take a trip here and there, but the key thing is to stay down and stay focused and have a long-term perspective. And in my opinion, everything is best in moderation, you know. But yeah, but like I said, people go crazy as soon as they get any form of additional income. They increase their lifestyle spending.
Your clothing is going to be more elevated. It's not necessarily spending irresponsibly, but they're spending aligned with their friend group and their community. That's why a lot of them oftentimes don't.
Man, you gotta learn how to say no to your friends. You can't. Sometimes you just gotta say no. Cause you gonna get those invitations. Hey, we going here. We going brunch here. We going to this concert, that concert. Sometimes you gotta look at your financing, your budgeting, and be like, nah, I'm good. You know, instead of saying yes to every invitation that comes your way. You know, you gotta set a goal, long-term goal, and achieve it. And nothing else could deter you from getting to that particular goal. You gotta remain focused, stay disciplined, which most people lack.
Rich because they're spending along with their friends.
Emotions are tied so tightly to what we do with our money. It happens to everyone. You get a raise, you're feeling great, you deserve to go out to dinner. In fact, you deserve to book that cruise. But the reality is that money was supposed to be earmarked for a bump up in your retirement savings, or money that you were going to put toward your child's education, or maybe you don't have,
or paying off, getting rid of your debt, your credit card debt, you know, your car note, stuff like that.
Have an emergency fund, or at least not an adequate one, and the money should have gone there. When we allow ourselves to let our emotions overtake what we're doing with our money, we lose sight sometimes of what our goals are and how we have planned to meet them.
And some people don't even look at their spending summary every month because they already know it's bad. And that's the thing, you need to have an idea how much you bringing in a month and how much is going out a month. You know, budgeting is so important. Whether you're making $65,000 a year to making over $100K a year, budgeting is crucial. and just managing money effectively and staying focused and sticking to your long-term goals. But anyway, I think I spoke enough on this video. But yeah, man, it baffles my mind every time I hear somebody say, "Oh, they're making over 100K a year, but still living paycheck to paycheck." Or, you know, like in this video scenario, her business is generating over 300K a year, and she still feel like she on a hamster wheel. Like that right there automatically doesn't make sense to me. It tells me that you got a spending problem, and you're not disciplined enough to budget your money effectively. You know. But yeah. Anyway, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, you guys stay cool and enjoy the rest of the day. All right. Peace.